true. I was dreadfully nervous. But why call me mad? My senses were sharpened, not dulled, especially my hearing. I heard everything on heaven and earth, even things from hell. Listen, and see how calmly I tell this story. It's hard to say how the idea began, but it haunted me day and night. I loved the old man. He never wronged me or insulted me, and I didn't want his gold. It was his eye, like a vulture's, pale blue with a film over it, that made my blood run cold. Slowly, I decided to kill him, to be rid of that eye forever. Now, you think I'm mad, but madmen know nothing. You should have seen my caution and foresight. I was never kinder to the old man than in the week before I killed him. Every night around midnight, I gently opened his door. I'd put in a closed lantern, then thrust my head through the gap. I moved my head slowly, slowly, taking an hour to get it in position to see him. Would a madman act with such patience and cunning? With my head inside, I cautiously opened the lantern just enough for a thin ray of light. I aimed this light at the vulture eye. For 7 nights I did this, but the eye was always closed. And so it was impossible to do the work, for it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. Each morning at daybreak, I'd go into his room boldly. I'd speak to him cheerfully, asking about his night. He would have to be incredibly sharp to suspect I looked in on him each midnight while he slept. On the 8th night, I was extra cautious opening the door, moving slower than a watch's minute hand. I felt a triumphant power knowing he didn't suspect my secret actions. I chuckled softly at the thought, which might have startled him awake. His room was completely black because the shutters were closed. I knew he couldn't see me, so I kept pushing the door open steadily. My head was in, and I was about to open the lantern. My thumb slipped on the fastening just then. The old man suddenly sprang up in bed, crying, "Who's there?" I remained perfectly still and silent for an hour, not moving a muscle. I didn't hear him lie back down. He was still sitting up, listening, just as I had often listened to the sounds in the walls. Then I heard a slight groan, the sound of mortal terror, not pain or grief. It was a low, stifled sound from deep within the soul, a sound I knew well. Many nights, that same sound of terror had come from my own chest. I understood his terror and almost pitied him, even as I inwardly chuckled. I knew his fear had been growing since the slight noise first startled him. He tried to dismiss it as wind or mice, but his attempts were useless. Death had stalked into the room before me, its shadow enveloping him, making him feel my unseen presence. After a long, patient wait, still not hearing him lie down, I decided to open the lantern a tiny bit. I opened it so stealthily, creating a single dim ray of light. This thin ray, like a spider's thread, shot out and landed directly on the vulture eye. It was open, wide open. I grew furious, gazing at the dull blue eye with its hideous film, which chilled me deeply. I couldn't see the rest of his face, as the ray instinctively hit only that damned spot. Didn't I say my senses were acute, not mad? Then I heard a low, quick, dull sound, like a cotton-wrapped watch. I knew that sound. It was the old man's beating heart. It fueled my fury, like a drum urging a soldier. Still, I remained motionless, barely breathing, holding the lantern steady. The heart's pounding grew faster and louder every second, fueled by the old man's terror. This strange, increasing noise in the silent house, combined with my nervousness, drove me to uncontrollable terror. I held back a few more minutes, but the beating got louder, impossibly loud. I feared a neighbor would hear it. The old man's time was up. With a yell, I flung the lantern open and lunged into the room. He shrieked just once. Instantly, I dragged him down and pulled the heavy bed over him. I smiled, pleased the deed was done. The muffled heart still beat for minutes, but I wasn't worried. Neighbors wouldn't hear it. Finally, it stopped. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the body. He was completely dead. No pulsation. I placed my hand on his heart for minutes to confirm. Then I lifted 3 floorboards and put all the pieces between the joists. I replaced the boards so cunningly that no one would notice. There were no stains. I had been too careful, catching everything in a tub. Ha ha ha! When I finished, it was 4 o'clock, still dark. As the clock struck, someone knocked at the street door. I opened it with a light heart, fearing nothing. 3 police officers entered, introducing themselves politely. I smiled, welcoming the officers, confident I had nothing to fear. I told them the shriek was mine from a dream, and the old man was away. I invited them to search everywhere, even leading them to his chamber, showing his untouched treasures. In my confident enthusiasm, I brought chairs for them to rest in the old man's room. In my triumphant audacity, I placed my own chair directly on the spot beneath which the body lay hidden. The officers were satisfied by my calm manner and ease. We sat and chatted, but soon I felt pale and wanted them to leave. My head ached, and I heard a ringing that grew clearer. I realized the noise wasn't in my ears at all. I grew paler but spoke more fluently and loudly. The low, dull, quick sound, like a muffled watch, kept getting louder. I gasped for breath, but the officers didn't seem to hear. I spoke faster, more intensely, but the noise relentlessly increased. I stood up, arguing and gesturing wildly, but the noise increased. I paced furiously, wanting them gone, but it grew louder. I foamed, raved, swore, even scraping the chair violently, but the noise overwhelmed everything, growing louder and louder. Yet the officers just chatted and smiled. Did they not hear? No, they heard. They suspected. They knew and mocked my horror. I couldn't stand their hypocritical smiles. I felt I had to scream or die. Listen, louder, louder, louder. It grew louder. "Villains!" I shrieked. "Stop pretending. I admit the deed. Tear up the planks here. It's the beating of his hideous heart."